When I first launched my gambling blog on Google years ago, about 15 years ago, I guess it must be now, I found this picture of laughing zebras, or zebras, as you people who don't speak English call them. And I found it again just recently in puzzle format online. And that really kind of appealed to me because I thought, you know what? Puzzles are interesting. A puzzle is what I've been engaged in for the last 40 odd years, trying to beat these games of chance with a consistent betting strategy, which turns on its head the whole notion that you can profit from these games with random betting. And it's obviously nonsense to imagine that. But most people do honestly believe that somehow the rules won't apply to them. They'll take their 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 to the casino and turn it into a big old pile of dosh. And of course, they fail time and time again. So anyway, that's what this little whole picture thing is all about at the beginning of this particular demo, because what I'm doing and what I have been doing for years and years is ridiculed by mathematicians in the pay of the casino business, by trolls, by carnival barkers, by whatever you want to call them, the people who are in the business of promoting gambling, but not just promoting gambling, also pushing the casino axiom, as they like to call it, that none of their games can be beaten in the long run, so why not just enjoy yourself? Have fun losing. That's the message. All right, so this is a lot to take in, and I have no way of knowing, obviously, how anybody's going to react to this. All I know is that it's true, that it's honest, that it's accurate, that it's fair, that it's the result of more hours of work than I like to think about. But on the other hand, I have zero regrets. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this, and hopefully it's valuable to somebody other than me. But I think the thing to stress once again, and I do it in most of these presentations if I remember to, is that I'm not saying that everybody on the planet who is interested in gambling should adopt my methods, my approach, do what I do, because quite clearly they can't afford it. I can't afford to go to the casinos with real money and do what I'm doing here with. These are honest, accurate outcomes taken from Baccarat Win Pro and from BNB, which is a brilliant source of random Baccarat shoes online, which I'd recommend to absolutely anybody who is serious about tackling the game of Baccarat or any other game that a casino offers. The games which are attractive for anybody with a ton of money and the determination and the discipline and the sobriety to put a strategy, a progressive betting strategy into action. Those games consist of Baccarat, blackjack, maybe single zero roulette, but you need to be careful of that because the house edge is pretty high. It's about a little over 2.5%, 2.7%, which is a little on the high side. But a blackjack is less than 1% in the house's favour. A baccarat is about 1.3, 1.3.5% in the house's favour, and craps is about 1.4%. So craps, blackjack, baccarat, they are the recommended games. Roulette less so, but you can always bounce from one game to another. For instance, you can start doing this on baccarat, on roulette, and as soon as you get into trouble, move to safer territory like blackjack or baccarat or craps or whatever. But anyway, as usual, I digress. I try and and contain myself, but once I get started it's pretty difficult for me. I will admit that, and I think anybody who's stuck with me for a few years knows that I do struggle with trying to keep things short. So anyway, what are we looking at here? We're looking at almost 95,000 rounds of Baccarat, randomly produced. I had no control over them. Every single one of these is verifiable. It's on the record. Baccarat Win Pro in particular keeps a record. Everything is on their server, so anybody who wants to can look at any one of these shoes and verify that I didn't fiddle the results. But for Christ's sake, why would I? You know, why would anybody be stupid enough to put in the sort of work that I have done over the last many years and fake it? You know, I mean, it's unthinkable. It's too ridiculous. But anyway, this in front of us right now is what I call the Smarty Marty, which is, and I put a $ for the S in front of the Smarty, so I don't get into trouble with somebody else who might have thought of the same name. But the Smarty Marty is one where if you get an opening win in a new skirmish, a new battle against the odds, then you increase the bet by 1 unit, and you keep going. As soon as the win progression ends, and like for instance it ends here, that's the plus sign which says, okay, we opened with a win, we added a unit, we lost, we just repeated that bet so that we could get that loss back, hopefully, and then we just keep going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So you know, that's the Smarty, right? And you can see how it works. You can see that it's soldiered on brilliantly all the way up to, and you can't see the drop down here, but it's 87,150 rounds. It had one nasty here, which was at 74,355. I wish you could see these drop downs, but anyway, I can, and that's the main thing. So here we busted out at 88,000. And let's go and have a look at that bust there. This is kind of fascinating. Would you sit still for this? 15 consecutive losses? I mean, come on. Jeepers creepers. You know, so that's the worst case. And then somewhere in here there's a bust. I'm not sure where it is. Let's see. No, that's not it. Oh, there it is. No, there's the bust. Okay. So we did have a bust, and here was 13 consecutive losses. And with all of these you know, these terrible situations, these worst case scenarios, you have to sort of say to yourself, well, would I actually be still at that table? I mean, after, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 13, 20. I mean, come on. Would I really do that? And that's, you know, that's what I'm asking you to consider. You know, the problem with these models is they're terrific. They do a great job for us. They enable analysis of a strategy. They give us information about the games. They give us reassurance about the possibilities, and they show us the reality of the probabilities and so on. But the big problem with them is that the algorithm is completely bloodless. It doesn't have any control whatsoever. It just does what it's told to do, and so there's no wiggle room whatsoever. And you know, that's the thing. You know, like I say, you go to that, you know, the worst case scenario, and you look at that, and it's 15 consecutive losses. I don't think anybody would sit through that, and then go down to the bust. And there it is again. It's 13 consecutive losses, but of course it went higher faster because we started out with a winning series. You know, we started out with this, and this is one of the disadvantages of this win progression approach. But it's a very small disadvantage because mostly, I mean, who the hell would sit through this? I don't think it's possible. Anyway, you be the judge. What have we got here? We've got masses and masses of information. This is the Smarty Marty. What I'm going to do now is close this out and then go straight to the actual pattern betting strategy, which is different than the Smarty Marty. Because see, the problem with the Martingale is they won't let you play it. They'll come and they'll interfere. They'll do all kinds of, particularly if it's blackjack. I mean, I don't think they bother too much at Baccarat, and I don't think anybody pays much attention at roulette. But the trouble with roulette is that the table limits are really tight. So the only thing you can hope to do is start with roulette if you want to, but then as soon as the bets start to move up into 3 figures, 4 figures, get out of there and transfer your action to a table where you can actually kick some ass. But anyway, I've lost my drift there. So I'll stop this and edit in the next one in a moment. Okay, so now we're looking at the hop, which is the hop and pattern betting combined. And if you look at the chart over here, you can see that there's some shitty moments here. Life gets difficult, but no busts. The big thing is, of course, that the spread is 1 to 20,000, which is ludicrous. I get that, but all I'm trying to do with all of the work that I do and all of the stuff that I put up in the blog, on Google, and in the channels, the 2 channels on YouTube, is to simply say to people, if you can't bet progressively with a disciplined strategy which has a whole shitload of money behind it, then you are sure to lose if you take your limited bankroll to a casino, sit down at any of these games, because it's volatility which will kill you. And the casinos know that. The casinos have all the money in the world. Volatility affects them just as much as you. Well, maybe slightly less, but it is a factor. The casinos every so often have to face a situation where somebody goes completely apeshit, they get luck behind them, they get the wind in their tail, and boom, off they go. And the casino has the money to ride through that. And they also understand player psychology better than gamblers do themselves. They know what's going to happen. They know that the guy who wins a ton of money will say to himself, well, hey, if I can do that once, I can do it again. And I just need a little bit more. And it's like the old saying goes, how much, what is the definition of enough? The definition of enough is just a little bit more. And that's how it is. Anyway, I've set this right now to a $1 minimum and a 20,000 max. And the bust point is 100,000, okay? So let's see. Let's go to $5. Come on. My computer is pretty slow. I have to admit that, and it is frustrating. I think what I should do is try and edit out these weights, because it is infuriating. Okay, so we remain at 8.6%, but we're now at 1.2 million. And then if we go to 25, I think in a way I'm better off to just leave the pause in here, because you guys can jump ahead if you want to, and I can mark the recalc. Okay, so what you see here is that the Smarty Marty method made what, 2 mil, and the pattern betting method against exactly the same outcomes, the same 94,978 rounds from 1,102 shoes from Baccarat Win Pro, and another 200 or so from BNB, plus a few others from various different sources, all online, all completely disconnected from me, so I had absolutely no control over their content whatsoever. And what you're seeing here is a very substantial win. And I honestly, I'm not saying that everybody should do this Most people absolutely cannot. What I am trying to say again and again and again is that if you can't bet progressively, don't bother. Really, there's better things you can do with your money. Don't give it to the casinos. They don't deserve it. It's crazy. They know you better than you know you. They know that if you're a standard gambler, then what you're going to do is you're going to win a bunch of money, you're going to want some more, you're going to lose, and you will shoot yourself in the foot again and again. It's like I always say, it's like they give you the noose and they don't have a gun to your head. They don't say stick your neck in this and jump off a chair, but you do it yourself. You happily just give up, give in, roll over, follow the script, do as you're told, and lose a shitload of money. So that's how it is. And all I'm saying, like I say, and I know I'm repeating myself, I apologize. I wish I was the perfect presenter for one of these things. I haven't actually seen a perfect presenter yet. Everybody seems to waffle. But what I am doing is I'm telling you the truth. I am telling you, if you don't bet progressively and if you don't have a lot of money to back your play, you will lose. It is as simple as that. You will not make 8.6% of your total action. Look at the action here. Average bet shown up here, $764. So we start from a 25 min, but 764. We win 8.6% of our total action. That's damn good. 6.2 million, right? A big difference over here you'll see is that backing player only, the house advantage is 1.43%, which is about right. It's a bit high, but it's okay. I wouldn't quibble with that. I would have hoped for something maybe closer to 1.35%, but I'm not going to fight them over that. That's fine. But what happens is when you apply the hop, which is set here at -5, that means that after 5 consecutive losses, let's do it down here. Okay, here we go. After 5 consecutive losses of backing player, you switch to banker, and then in reverse, so that the next time we see a different color down here, you'll see, okay, 5 consecutive losses, switch over to player, and that doesn't always work, but nothing always works, for goodness sake. That's not how things are. Here is a really shitty session. Started out with 9 consecutive losses, and then just a single win, and then 4 consecutive losses, and then we skipped because I built the skip in to 50,000. You run away at 50 grand, and then this is a new shoe down here, and you can see what happened. We skipped, but we missed this lovely little load of wins here. And that's what happens when you skip. Sometimes it'll do you good and sometimes it'll hurt you. That's common sense. It's logic. It's math. Come on. It's not that difficult. But anyway, what I was saying was, yeah, minus 1.43% is the house advantage if we'd stayed with player. Hop improved that to a player edge of 0.63%. And then we improved that further with the strategy to 8.6%. So, that's pretty decent. That action multiplied by this number over here would give an expected or an indicated win of 400, so I'm going to call it 460,000. That's multiplying that number by that number gives us that number, okay? Instead, what we did was 6.2 million. Good for us, hey? But that's all really I have to say. Next thing to look at before see, I've said well, never mind. Low bets lose 8,100 overall. High bets win 7,167,520. Commission, because hopping sometimes we're on banker. This is just a 5%. None of that crooked easy. If you win on a banker 6, you only get half the money. That's just outrageous. It's just outrageous. Anyway, the so-called 5% commission is actually 13% here. What more can I say? This is it. This is the whole damn shooting match. All I can say to you is take it or leave it. I've said that so many times. Well, no, I don't tire of it really, because, you know, and I suppose if I did tire of this stuff, then I'd have stopped years ago. I'm just trying to say to people, please save your money. If you can't afford to win, don't play. That's it. End of lecture. Okay then, so I've just updated the Bobby Rivas model, Bluffinbob, as he calls himself. And one thing that I always feel bound to stress when I put one of these things up on the channel is that you know, when I run this this kind of analysis, I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody down or to make them look foolish or whatever. These guys all play with their own money, or at least as far as I know they do, and basically they behave like almost every other gambler in the world. You know, they take their chances. They go up to the tables with limited finance. They do the best they can. If they hit a winning streak, then they do pretty well. If they hit a losing streak, they do badly. It's that simple. I mean, if you bet randomly against random outcomes, then you are completely at the mercy of which way the wind blows. If you run into a session that's tilted heavily in favour of the house, then you will lose a shitload of money, and if the opposite happens, then you'll do well. And I think one of the most important contrasts between the sort of approach that Bobby and all the others take, and the others that I analyse include Mr. Handpay, Jason Bulkey, and occasionally Vegas Matt, Degen or Degen Dolt, or I'm not sure how he pronounces his name. He's an interesting character, certainly a showman. I mean, all of them have the same thing in common, and that is that they do bet randomly, essentially. But if you look at this, here you see these light green horizontal lines, and the pattern betting or double or drop rules are in the columns from M to O, and Bobby's bets are from H to J. And the horizontal lines indicate a point at which we've reached a maximum, you know, the highest point of the bankroll. And what you'll see very quickly, even just on page 1 here, is that you know, my strategy sort of has just a completely sort of regular, consistent approach. You start with a minimum bet, you get into the hole, you come out of the hole, you move on. And to some extent, in this first sheet, you're seeing that with Bobby too. He's enjoying in these first what is it, about 35 rounds, 38 rounds, something like that. You know, he's enjoying a positive run, a plus run, which is great, and we all deserve that, right? But the trouble is, of course, we can't rely on it. So we go down to the next one, and we see now that he's in the hole. He's betting within a very tight, very limited, narrow spread, and so he's not taking advantage of winning streaks, and he's not running away enough from losing streaks. So we go down a bit more, and we see that throughout this particular set, he's still struggling to get out of the hole, and meanwhile pattern betting from M to O is just constantly turning around. Each one of those horizontal green lines is a turnaround, and sometimes the bets are high. You know what? I mean, if you actually imagine that you can go to any of these games with a very, very limited amount of money, the way that Bobby in particular does, you know, it's very rare for him to take more than £2,000 to the table. just no chance. I'm sorry, man. You just, I mean, it's your money, your choice. Do what you want, I mean, no criticism, no mockery, nothing else. But I'm just saying, he provides an excellent demonstration of what not to do if you want to actually make money at these games. So we go on down. We're still waiting to see a max on Bobby's side, and you just see turnaround after turnaround. Here we go. Now on line 265, Bobby has finally got himself into a max situation. So that line there is plus 1,645 is his max, and the matching max for me over here in column Q is 10,575. Now that's a pretty good indicator of the difference between the two strategies. The main difference, of course, being that Bobby doesn't have a strategy. I do, so there we are. Anyway, for now we're looking at Bobby on a plus run, and oh dear, here we go again, into the toilet. And meanwhile, horizontal green lines under the pattern betting heading. So it's a very good indicator of the difference. And yes, look here, pattern betting is in deep shit, because Bobby is too, and I'm playing against his outcomes, so I've got no choice. But anyway, eventually we turn around. Bobby certainly doesn't. It's where are we now? We're looking at look along line 631. You'll see Bobby's at Alexa stop. Bobby's at negative 3,693. I'm at plus 39,063. And yeah, I had to work bloody hard for it to get there. But it was systematic, it was strategic, it was tactical, and it was consistent, and it was disciplined. All of those things that Bobby, bless him, and it's his choice, his money, his choice. I keep saying that, I know, but it's true. He can do whatever he wants with his money. What he's doing for me is very important, because he, and just like the other guys who I analyse from time to time, they're providing me with verifiable data that any of you folks out there can go look at any time you want. And here we go. Like here we got into a shit show which lasted for what, 22 rounds, which is pretty unusual. Most of these things turn around a lot quicker than that, for sure. Most of these things I used to count okay. So there we go, 158 okays up there in D2. For me, that is 158 okays, which is turnarounds. Average turnaround is slightly less than 7 rounds. So if you see one that runs for 22, or even the one below it which goes for 10, they are unusual. But here you go. So we're coming down towards the end here. We're still waiting to see Bobby back at a max. Ain't happening, is it? It will. I know that, because I've seen this model before. But just look, columns M to O, green horizontal lines, one after another, after another, after another, after another. Let's see. I know Bobby had a pal named Brownie. Poor guy. I suppose he could have been Cookie or I don't know, Cake or something like that. But anyway, his name is Brownie. Very nice guy, I'm sure. Look, line 1028. Bobby and his crew are back up to, and I think Brownie must be one of the guys in there, in that picture there. But each one of those, of course, is touch sensitive, so it's got a link on it, and it takes you, straight to the specific session. But okay, so here we are. We've now got Bobby back in the green, 3,000 ahead, and meanwhile, where are we? We're at 56,425 plus a little bit. So 56,000, we're actually at 6,488. Idiot, look at the top there, sorry. I'm calling me an idiot, not you. But there we are. You see, this is the difference between the two approaches. And Bobby's doing me a great favour because he's providing me with a superb example of how your average gambler plays, how he bets, how he tackles the challenge of beating negative expectation. And another thing that I've stressed many times, but I have to say it again and again because I don't know how many of these videos that any one person has seen before, but the important thing that I have to say is I'm not saying that everybody should bet the way that I do, the way that pattern betting does. What I am saying is that random betting against random outcomes cannot work. And I am trying to demonstrate to anybody who cares, anybody who's sort of tuned in to watch these things, please don't waste your money unless you have enough money to enable you to beat these games, because it takes a lot of money. Let's have a look here. Down beneath the chart, you'll see sorry, I've lost my little arrow there. I've got to make that bigger, actually. It would be good, wouldn't it? You're seeing that pattern betting risked 13,000 plus at one point, which was more than Bobby's 5,493. Oh, this has got an unneeded minus in it, so let me fix that. I hate to do this when the recorder is running, but I don't have a lot of choice. So there we have the difference. My action was 3 times Bobby's. The win was nearly 20 times. It was nearly 19 times Bobby's, my win against his. Action was 3 times, and exposure was 2.5 times. But the most important thing is that at the current point, my win of 56,490, near enough, is 432% of my exposure, whereas Bobby's current win of 3,000 is 55% of his exposure. So that's a big difference. It's an important difference. The chart here shows what pattern betting is all about. This is what pattern betting exploits. The green spikes upwards, and it responds to the red spikes when they last a long time by backing off. And the important thing, of course, is that we make more than one unit. Well, we're progressive betting, but we're not using the stupid martingale, which the casinos always love to drag out as being proof that progressive betting doesn't work. What the casinos know, and what I wish I could convince you to know, is that only progressive betting can beat these games. Only progressive betting. Random betting can't do it. In the short term, yes, it is possible to make money. And Bobby has shown us here that yes, he's now reached a point where he's just a shade under his max to date. He got as high as 3,250 ahead, and then he lost his last bet. This is something, of course, that pattern betting never does. You don't walk away until you've got an okay, until you've got a turnaround. And I just use the term okay because it's as good as any other. I could put yes, I could put a check mark in there, or I could say yay or whatever. It just happens that years and years and years ago, I chose okay as the indicator of a turnaround, and that's how it will remain until the day I die. But anyway, just to repeat, I'm 56,500 ahead, basically, which is 12% of my action against Bobby's outcomes. He is at 3,000 ahead, which is pretty much his highest point to date, or at least since I started working with him on the 17th of August. And he's at 2% of his total action. So, what do you reckon? 12% or 2%? Which is better? 56,500 or 3,000? Which is better? It's simple enough stuff. But I'm not saying everybody should do what I do. What I'm saying is, if you can't do what I do, you should spend your money on better things. Honestly, I mean, anything at all. I mean, ice cream, I don't know, great vacations, I don't know, whatever. But just don't give it to the casinos. They don't deserve it. They don't need it. Well, I suppose they would say they do need it, because in order to provide games for you to play and casinos for you to play those games in, they need you to contribute. So, oh God, that's something else that drives me mad. In English, the word is pronounced contribute. In American English, it's pronounced contribute. Why, I have no idea. Contribute sounds like two N's to me, but that's the way I was brought up, with the language of my fathers and mothers and grandfathers and whatever. And it's irritating that English speakers are now speaking American more than they speak English, even in our own country. But never mind, that's another rant for another time. Let's have a look at the charts here. Here you can see where the big nasty came, the big drop. Here you can see the graphic difference between Bobby's method, or lack of method, and mine. And I'm sort of marching steadily forward and upward, onward and upward, and Bobby is up and down and all over the place. And as I say, no criticism, no mockery, no nothing, other than saying this guy is doing what the vast majority of gamblers do, and of course he's losing steadily, which I find very sad, because I think that of all the people who I'm monitoring currently, Bobby is probably the most appealing, because he's the most real. I mean, Jason Bulky, Mr. Handpay, throws money around like it's toilet paper, and it's tens of thousands, and his bets are absolutely off the charts, and I mean, higher even than mine. I mean, in the model for him, which I will be adding to this one, because I will be updating that one, he's just put up a new session in which he says he wins, I think, 20,300 or something, 20,300. And my guess is, and I haven't watched it yet, but my guess is that profit came from a very large bet right at the very end of the session, because that's how he functions. He is unreal. He really is unreal, and now he's become more and more of a mouthpiece for the casinos, because now he's a sponsor. He's working with a whole bunch of different casinos. He insists throughout that the money that he puts on the table in play during these sessions is his money. And I'm sure he's telling the truth. I mean, he's said the same thing to me too. He and I have not had much of correspondence, but back and forth a little bit in emails, and he insists that he is playing with his own money, the other guys are not. So I don't know what to make of that. But anyway, the chart here shows you the big difference. Now, the big embarrassment for me with all of these things, of course, is when I go over here, I allow double down, as I call it, which is a straightforward martingale. The only difference being that what I do, because I agree with the casinos that a martingale that only pays a single unit when turnaround eventually comes is rubbish. It's just not good enough. What I do is, for the algorithm that runs the martingale here, the algorithm knows that after an opening win at 25, which is my minimum bet, add a unit. Keep adding a unit and keep going like that until you lose, and then try and recover the loss from the winning streak, and then continue after that to chase the losses. And if you go up here, you take away the 25, and you'll see that doing that reduces the effectiveness of the strategy by about 20,000. Let's put that back, and you can see the difference. Let's just do it again. Yeah, it's about nearly 20 grand difference. Uh-oh, okay. That's not good. So that was a classic fat finger fumble. Yeah, I hit the wrong key and everything disappeared. So anyway, 61,238 if you add the sort of the win progression, and and if not, you get 42,250. So that's, you know, that's what that's about. If you look down here, the red line down here shows how things have been going for Bobby. You know, he did okay for the first little bit. The first one, like 350 rounds, something like that. And then, damn, the bottom fell out. And every time he went to bat, every time he went, he bellied up to a blackjack table, he got his ass kicked. And then he started to see things a little bit better. Well, you get, I mean, you can read this as well as I can. And then, of course, this last bit here, right at the end, you know, it's suddenly an upturn in his favour. He's still looking at negative, but you know, he's doing all right. He's I hope it continues. It won't, of course, but I'd love it to, but it won't. Yeah, the embarrassment, going back to Double Down, the embarrassment of that, of course, is that you know, it actually succeeds in winning 24.6% of its total action compared to my 12%. The total action was 250,000 against my 470,000, and so, you know, that's kind of frustrating. The thing with the Martingale, of course, is that eventually it's going to run into trouble. But I don't allow the Martingale to give up. What the casinos like to tell you is that if you play a Martingale, what you're going to do is you're going to hit the table limit, and then you can't bet anymore, and then you're screwed. Well, of course, that's ridiculous, because what you can easily do is simply take the next bet that's required to a higher limit table. The casinos want you to imagine that there is some sort of magical kind of rule which means that you must stay in one place in order to achieve an improvement in the ebb and flow of wins and losses. Absolute nonsense. It's complete codswallop. You could, if you wanted to, place one bet at each one of 1,000 blackjack tables and just keep going round in circles, or even go randomly from, you know, cross over to the other side. You don't have to do them in any particular order, just one bet at each table, one bet, one bet, one bet. The outcome would be no different than here. And that's the absolute truth of it. And this is why I'm always saying to people, when the cards are shuffled, pay no attention. It doesn't make any difference. There isn't some sort of magical thing that happens when it's the first card out of the deck. Shuffling only matters to card counters, and I've already demonstrated in several of these models that there is reason to suspect that card counting may not be all that it's cracked up to be. I don't want to attack it, but on the other hand, it's pretty damn disappointing, I'll tell you, because, you know, and now I've got hundreds of hours of these Wizard of Odds demos, which include the ongoing true count throughout. I stopped putting it into my models because it just became obvious that card counting was not a help. But I've got all those demos, all those sessions, recorded sessions, stored, and when I get my big staff, and I have my eye on a couple of kids who I think could do the job very nicely, I'll get them to run a real count check. But I'm telling you, card counting ain't what it's cracked up to be. But those are the people who worry about shuffles. They worry about cuts. They worry about all sorts of stuff that I think is just a distraction. And frankly, I think that the casinos encourage people to believe that card counting is some mysterious way of beating them, because they know they do much more work than me in the area of risk assessment, evaluation, and so on. And I think they know in their hearts that card counting is not a winning strategy. It can help sometimes, but just as often it will hurt. So there we are. And the other thing always to keep in mind is that the casinos saw a major spike in their profits after Ed Thorpe in the 60s, late 60s, came out with his book about beat the dealer and how to count cards and how to thrash the house. And most people, they think that they know how to do it. Blackjack is a game with more experts than any other game in the world, probably other than, I don't know, football. But You know, it's just been the biggest booster, the biggest boon for casinos ever. You know, I've got the figures somewhere. You can go back and you can look in the 60s how many blackjack tables there were in Nevada in particular. I focus on Nevada because I lived there for many, many years, decades. You know, and it went through the roof after the Thought book caught fire. And I don't know how many copies it sold. It's something that I'm constantly saying to myself, find out how many copies it sold, and then I forget. So, you know, what can I tell you? Anyway, there we are. And then down below here is a slightly larger representation of the ebb and flow, the back and forth, the yin and yang, the whatever you want to call it, the win and loss, the plus and minus. And you know, this is where pattern betting gets its strength, and this is the reason that the only way you can beat these games is with measured, consistent, disciplined, progressive betting. There is no other way. Simple as that. So there you have it. See you next time.